really is a thing apart. Yes, he could also have said, if ye were deaf, then ye would hear. This is true because it is the supposed eyes of a assumptive born man and the ears of this same pseudo-man that seem to see and to hear imperfection. This assumptive man is so intent upon seeing, particularly upon seeing, I notice, the imperfection that seems to be, that he does not seem to see and hear the absolute perfection that stands before him. Isn't it so? All right, I'm going to read it. This assumptive man is so intent upon seeing, particularly seeing and hearing, the imperfection that seems to be, that he does not see and hear the absolute perfection that is right here to be seen, to be heard, that stands before him. If you don't believe that you should have a seat made on the train telling you all the things that are wrong with everything and everyone. You know, that's a fact. When Jesus said, having eyes ye see not, and ears ye hear not, lest ye be converted, that is illumined, you know. Converted is illumined. Converted is as though you were converted from ignorance into, what's the word? Intelligence. You see? Converted from ignorance into intelligence. Converted is illumined, lest ye be converted, illumined, and I should heal ye. Remember that? Now, unless we really see and really hear this absolute truth, we cannot expect to be the evidence or manifestation of it. But now we can see it. Now we can hear it. Now we are seeing it. Now we are hearing it. Now we are being it. And how does it happen that we're hearing it? How does it happen that we're seeing it? Because we're seeing ourselves. You're seeing yourself. Just as I said. You're saying this. I'm hearing it. I'm saying it. You're hearing it. It's all one. All right. There is a something. Now, that's, there's a quote. I say, make quotations around this word something. And it's with a capital S. There is a something. Call it whatever you wish. Within and as the I that I am. Now this is you. Within and as the I that I am, that is inextinguishable. Now this is particularly for us. Want me to say that again? There is a something. Call it whatever you wish, within and as the I that I am, that is inextinguishable. Inextinguishable. Really. This very same something exists within and as the I am that you are, and that everyone is. Everyone. The I am that you are cannot be extinguished. You say the I am, or the I that I am can never be extinguished. Never. What can extinguish the universal nuclei? What can extinguish the universal, the infinite, omnipresent light that is? This is the power. This is the power. Inextinguishable. The I am that you are cannot be extinguished. Not one iota of your being or body can be extinguished. Not one iota. This is true not only of the life, the consciousness, the mind, the intelligence, the love. Oh, the love can never be extinguished. Not a pinpoint of that, ever. Above all, the love can never be extinguished. It also applies to the fulfillment of purpose that you are. That can never be extinguished. The fulfillment, you see, it's not a fulfillment of a purpose that you have to do or anything like that. It's a fulfillment of purpose that you are. Nothing can extinguish that. This is absolutely true of the ever-enduring substance, the ever-enduring form and activity that you are. Not one nucleus, not one atom, cell of this body that you are can ever be extinguished. Utterly impossible. There is no darkness that can extinguish the light. There is no darkness that can extinguish the light that is the substance and form, that is the entirety, that is your being. Darkness can never extinguish omnipotent, omnipresent light. Rather, because the light is, the darkness is not. How can there be darkness when light is all? When all is light. It can never be. The Bible says that darkness flees before the light, and the fact that God is light and in Him is no darkness at all, this is Psalms, means that so-called darkness is a void, a universal void, universal vacuum, a universal nothingness, darkness. So there is and can be no darkness. But conscious, intelligent substance is eternal, constant substance. And this is the inextinguishable you. You are that. You are not without form and void. As the Bible states of the earth in the beginning, there never was an instant in all of eternity when the earth was without form and void. There never was an instant in all eternity when you were without form and void of being the inextinguishable light that you are. Not one iota of your being is without form and void of substance and of activity. Now whether this substance, which is light, be called body or whatever, makes no difference. It remains forever intact, as the inextinguishable light, the inextinguishable life, consciousness that you are. And now, beloved, let us speak as the one inseparable voice. One inseparable voice. I am the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world of seeming darkness. But because I am already that light, I cannot dwell in or as darkness. I am the light in which there is no darkness at all. No darkness at all. The darkness and the light are both alike to the I that I am. This is you. I see you. The seeming darkness cannot extinguish the light that I am. If seeming darkness could extinguish the light that I am, I would have been extinguished aeons ago. The light I am is life itself. There is no unconscious life. Conscious life or living consciousness is substance. All substance, life, light is in form. I am eternal constant substance, light in form, as every iota of the I light that I am. Now, whether the focalization of this light that I am be called a nucleus, an atom, a cell, or whatever, is not important. Not important. Still, I am, and I remain, the eternal conscious light, life, that is this specific focalization, this specific focalization of the light, the life, the consciousness that I am. Now you've said it. Now you've said it. You've spoken as just what you are, the inextinguishable light itself. Now, let's see. No, we're still going on. Now, the next one is why the body cannot age. Why the body cannot age. The substance that is the body knows nothing at all about time. Did you know that? This substance. You know, I've said so often, too, that the physicists often say that they could never understand why the body ages. They find no reason for it under the sun. Well, there isn't any reason excepting people expect it to, and you always get what you expect, whether you expect it or not. Well, but isn't that so? Really? No, that's true. But there really is no reason why the body should age, even humanly speaking, so they say. You know. Well, then it's about time we woke up, isn't it? If they're smart enough to see that, we ought to be too, I should think, you know. No, the substance that is the body knows nothing at all about time. Who is it that does know about time or imagines he does? Who does? Who is it that fastens this thing of time upon us, other than a little so-called born smarty man? Isn't that right? Well, isn't it right so? I tell you, I'm sorry, but I can't help it tonight. I'm so joyous. I have such a sense of joy, and it keeps bubbling in the most unexpected places, you know. But I think all of us are. I think you are just as much as I. So, well, of course you are. Why not? No, of course, actually, there is no time for this body to know anything about. And if so-called born man knew, he'd realize there's no time for him to know anything about either. So, which I'm talking about something that doesn't exist. But it does not even know anything about assumptive man's false opinions. This body doesn't even know anything about assumptive man's false opinions pertaining to time. And this is a fact. This is truth. The substance that is this body knows nothing other than what it is. Knows its eternality, knows itself to be absolute perfection, knows itself to be beauty, knows itself to be the substance that is infinitude, knows what it is. The substance that is this body. The substance that is this body knows nothing other than what it is. This substance, consciousness, is aware only of being, and of being its fulfillment of purpose. And believe you me now, this body is a fulfillment of purpose, definitely. Because if it were not, there would be no body. We'd be floating around without any bodies at all. This is definitely a fulfillment of purpose. No, this substance is aware only of being, and of being its fulfillment of purpose. The conscious awareness of being is constant and eternal. The constant eternal awareness of being, that is this body, having no awareness of time whatever, this body having no awareness of time, what they call time, whatever, cannot be aware of any passing of time. Neither can it be aware of any period of time. Now you understand I'm saying time over and over again, when I know very good and well there is no time. But we have to have words, so I'll just talk like a human being for a change. You see. Thus, this substance in form right here has no awareness of a time or a passing of time in which to age, in which to stiffen, in which to weaken, in which to deteriorate. Now can you see why it's impossible? If we just realize we know it's impossible for us to age, for this body to age. If there's anything that ages, it's up here. You know, it could be at all. If there could be such a thing. This substance in form right here has no awareness of a time, a passing of time in which to age, to stiffen, to weaken, or to deteriorate. What is the substance that is this body? I am. I am. This is you. I am the substance that is this body. What is the substance that is this body? I am. I, conscious of being what I am, really am the substance that is this body. Thus, what I know, this body knows. What I know, this body knows. What I know myself to be, this body knows itself to be. What this body knows itself to be, I know myself to be turned around. What this body knows itself to be, I know myself to be. I know as much as this body does, you know. This body knows as much as I do. Why? Because this body is the consciousness that I am. That's why. See? Here we are in this blazing light again. What I know myself to be, this body knows itself to be, because I have no awareness of time. I have no awareness of time. This body has no awareness of time. Because this body has no awareness of time, I have no awareness of time. Now let us return to this subject of light. It is of such great significance that we must dwell much with every revelation pertaining to it. We have mentioned David's statement that the darkness and the light are both alike to thee. Now the very zenith of all absolute truth is revealed in this statement. We have been told that the darkness obscures the light. This is not true. There is no darkness to obscure the light. There is no difference between the darkness and the light itself. There is darkness. The light has got to be the darkness. You see this. Either the light is the darkness or there is no darkness. The darkness is not the light. If there is darkness, because the light is all, the light would have to be that darkness to be seen. There is no difference between the darkness and the light. Well, it says in the Bible, the darkness and the light are both alike to thee. What's the difference? And in the latter part of Revelation there, remember the city that lies four square? No need of the sun by day, nor the moon by night. For the light was already there. There's no darkness at all. The darkness is the light, actually, in a sense, and the light is the darkness. The more Stygian seems the darkness, the more brilliant, the more powerful is the light. This is that inextinguishable light we've been talking about tonight. In short, right in the very midst of the greatest darkness, the light is shining at its greatest brilliance and intensity. And I have seen this again and again and again. Right in the midst of what seemed to be the greatest darkness, the most brilliant of light is revealed and manifested. And manifested. I have seen right in the midst of what looked like absolutely hopeless, just no way out, hopelessness, despair. And I have seen the light the most brilliant. The most brilliant. And the light was, and the despair was not. And the inextinguishable light proved itself, evidenced itself to be the light. So, no, in short, right in the very midst of the greatest darkness, the light is shining at its greatest brilliance and intensity. And this is true when the darkness seems to be the most intense. This is true. Assumptive man, supposed man with breath in his nostrils, has maintained a devastating sense of guilt for every transgression he has supposedly committed. I know, I've talked with too many. I know. This terrible sense of guilt that man, I don't mean just man, I mean, man, woman, whatever, carries around. He feels that he must be punished. That's one of the things the church fastened on to us again. God is a God that punishes. I think this had its origination probably, and could very well have had something to do with this thing of karma, and the only difference is that with karma, why, you have to wait and look forward to another lifetime after several years of punishment. But right here, you get it right while you're right here. That's the thing, the difference. But I think it's the church business right straight through anyway, either way. I know of nothing that seems to be more devastating. Now wait a minute. If a sense of guilt did anything for anyone, if it helped, yes, I'd say fine. Go ahead and feel guilty if you want to. But I've never known anyone, never, in all my experience, to be helped the least little bit. In fact, the opposite, by carrying around a terrible sense of guilt. Really. I don't mean that I'm condoning all sorts of so-called wrongdoing, but it's none of my business what anyone has done or does do. That has anything to do with me at all. It is my business to see the pure, perfect, glorious man that is, and I stick with my business. With my business. That's the thing. Otherwise, well, I just better keep quiet about everything if I don't. And I mean this with all my heart. I really do. The light is, wait a minute. Assumptive man with breath in his nostrils has maintained a devastating sense of guilt for every transgression he has supposedly committed. He feels that he must be punished, and so it seems that he does endure much punishment. He expects the punishment. There are those who even welcome it, feeling somehow or other that it cleanses them, but it never does. It never does. But really, the only punishment that he even seems to endure is due to his own false sense of guilt. The longer he goes around with that, and the deeper it seems to be with him, the longer he's going to continue, it seems, to do the very things that have brought the sense of guilt in the beginning. Why? Because he's fastened it upon himself, seemingly. You can understand that, can't you? How it can be? It can be. Who has convinced man that he is a miserable sinner and must therefore pay the price for his sins? It is the very same assumptive man with breath in his nostrils. I tell you, I don't want anything to do with that kind of a man. Really. It is this very same assumptive man with breath in his nostrils who is supposed to have been the sinner. The sinner and the sin are one and the same thing. If there is a sinner, the sinner is a sin. If there is a sin, the sin is the sinner. It's impersonal. It is absolutely impersonal. Absolutely impersonal. There's no such identity. There's no such man. No, the sinner and the sin are one and the same thing, and this one is no one at all. The sinner and the sin are one and the same thing, and this one is no one at all. How can one love? How can one be loved? And look at someone and listen to someone, punishing himself, telling us all the terrible kind of person he is. Listen to this and believe a word of it. Love doesn't believe anything like that. Not at all. Love knows better. The sinner and the sin are one and the same thing, and this one is no one at all. There is no sin. There is no sinner. Is this not the kingdom of God? Is this not the kingdom of heaven? Is there a sinner or sin in this kingdom of heaven that is here? This consciousness of heaven? Really? Either this is the truth or it is not the truth. It can't be both ways. The false sense of guilt for sin supposedly committed has its roots in the fears of primitive man, if there were such a thing. It is due to this assumptive primitive man's fear of anything that is inharmonious, imperfect, or blameworthy. Having no one and nothing to blame, he began to blame and to condemn himself. That's why he began to set up idols. That's why he began to worship the sun and the wind and all the things of which he was afraid, you see. He had no genuine awareness of anything to blame but himself. Of course, all of this stems from fear, and the seeming fear is fear of the unknown. Now, of course, you know, I'm talking about a kind of a man that doesn't exist. You realize that, I know. But from the standpoint of the appearance, that would be, I believe, the answer. That's what it seems to me. Now, when the church became aware of this seeming weakness in assumptive man, it decided to prey upon it to its own advantage. It told man that he was a miserable sinner, and I don't think it helped him a bit. Well, anyway. But it did just the same. You know, told man that he was a miserable sinner and that only the church could save or redeem him. Really. In this way, the church augmented assumptive man's sense of guilt, made him more guilty, made him seem to be a greater sinner, even made him seem to become a greater sinner. Now, isn't that something? Really. Now, I'm not making an attack upon the church because what the church does is none of my business, but I'll tell you that I think whatever concerns man, capital M himself, that is my business. That's our business. That's our business. Now, in this way, the church augmented assumptive man's sense of guilt and self-condemnation. Even the supposed fall of man was invented by the church. Poor man. What chance did he have? Really, with that kind of thing going on. My goodness. In order to clinch the hold of the church upon the poor, deluded, guilt-ridden, assumptive man, they invented the fallen man, and he's still fallen, so you imagine. Imagine. The light never became darkness. That's the point. Man, capital M, is light. And the light never became darkness, and the darkness is never going to become light. We're just simply not going to be any better than we are right now. Not anybody ever. Because we are the complete, pure, perfect, inextinguishable light right now. If there is darkness at all, the light is and has to be the darkness. This fact, beloved, is why we cannot, we must not condemn or criticize anyone. Anyone. No matter how heinously wrong or how dark he may seem to be, if we do indulge in criticism or condemnation of someone, we are actually accepting the darkness ourselves. This is absolute truth. Yes, we are accepting the guilt. We are accepting the self-condemnation as our own consciousness. So, after all, then, the only one that we could condemn would be ourselves, wouldn't it? Would have to be. The one who looks askance at his so-called brother man is really condemning himself. And it matters not what so-called wrong or sin his brother man may have committed. The one who seems to be the most self-righteous is really, as a rule, the most self-condemnatory individual. Why? Because he is really condemning himself. He recognizes his own seeming sins or weaknesses in the supposed sins and weaknesses of someone whom he considers another. Someone who is someone other than his own consciousness is no other. Or other than the consciousness that he is. Often it would be well to recall the episode reported in our Bible where Mary Magdalene was seized for her so-called sin. When they demanded that she be punished, Jesus was quiet for a few moments. Then he merely said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." And they quietly slunk away. Wasn't much they could say, was there? Did this mean that Jesus condoned her supposed sin? Not at all. Not at all. Didn't he say, "Go and sin no more"? No. But neither did he condemn her. That's the point. Neither did he condemn her. Before she left, Jesus, he did say, "Go and sin no more." Now let us see what did take place here. First of all, Jesus saw right through the seeming sin and the seeming sinner. You have proof of that. There's definite evidence of that later on here. He saw the purity. He saw the absolute perfection of the pure identity, who had not and could not sin. And his seeing was so powerful that Mary herself realized that she was not a sinner. Subsequent reports about her revealed that she was completely free, right from then, completely free from so-called sin. Nonetheless, it is apparent in this episode that those who did condemn her were condemning themselves. Then, too, we can recall that the Bible says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." Well, I will have to break into this because there's still quite a little more of it. Now beyond the appearance of evil is the absolute truth or fact. The only punishment or atonement there can ever seem to be is the certain fact that man never ceases to be the perfect, sinless life that he is. And the seeming punishment is assumptive man's punishment of himself by flaying himself with self-condemnation. Now, beloved, this is not the way to perceive and to be the absolute pure truth that you are. Self-condemnation, self-punishment is the road that leads to hell. And that's the fact. And the hell is of assumptive man's own making. A great spiritual light once said, when man knows how to be better, he will be better. And that was Mary Baker Eddy. That's one of the greatest statements she ever made. When man knows how to be better, he will be better. This is absolutely true because any deliberate wrongdoing is due to assumptive man's seeming ignorance of the glorious being that he really is, But there does come a day when the Christ man, this Christ man, complete purity, is perceived by each one of us, by each one. Then the falsity of supposed sin is obliterated. It's finished, it's done. But in the meantime, assumptive man can only seem to become more deeply mired in the soil of darkness if he continues to condemn himself because he does not appear to know better and thus to be better. You can see what it is. You can see how it is. So, you see, this is love in action. This is love in action. Yes, it is futile for us to condemn ourselves for supposed sins of commission or omission. We only seem to plunge ourselves deeper into apparent darkness. That's all. There is but one way to dissolve that seeming darkness, and this way is to recognize, to acknowledge, and admit the eternal absolute fact that man eternally constantly is the light. Man eternally constantly is the light. Yes, man, I'm speaking of capital M, man, the Christ man, is the light in which there is no darkness at all. To the Christ man, God, the darkness and the light are all the same. All is light, there is no darkness. Even though so-called assumptive man may insist upon believing that he is or has the power to be a miserable sinner, God is the present. There is no other. And as stated before, right where the greatest darkness seems to be, there is the light, and the Christ man is the light. It is never man being man, never man being man. Rather, it is God, the Christ, being the Christ man. It really is a big order to refuse to condemn yourself. That's one of the hardest things of all, is to refuse to condemn yourself. Which one of us hasn't, done things that have hurt people or things like that? Don't you know, all sorts of things that we've given and maybe said things that we wish we hadn't said. All sorts of things. It's no easy thing, really. I really realize this. It really is a big order to refuse to condemn yourself But it is even a bigger order to refuse to condemn anyone. That's even a bigger order. Yet as God says, judge not, lest you be judged. These are words of truth, because to judge is to judge yourself. It is in this way only that you can be judged. No one can judge you. No one can judge me. No one can judge man. Man can only judge himself, if there is such a thing. You see. Certain it is that there is no God around who is sitting in judgment upon us. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? God is of purer eyes than to behold evil. Well, if God is of purer eyes than to behold evil, so are we. What can we see that God does not see? What can we behold that God does not behold? God knows no evil to judge. This is true, because the darkness and the light are both alike to God. All is light, there is no darkness. There are few of us who realize just how much we punish ourselves by a false sense of guilt and self-condemnation. This self-punishment can even seem to manifest itself as a bodily ailment. I've seen that again and again and again. I've seen it, Had people come to me, and then when the false sense of guilt was obliterated like that, walk out completely free. Well, but not only that, wouldn't have been much good if the false sense of guilt its disappearance had not also brought the disappearance of something that's a seeming sense of wanting to go on doing the same thing, don't you see, or being the same way. But it's a whole purification. It's a wonderful thing. The hair shirt of guilt can seem to ultimate in sickness, in age, deterioration, and even in death. But if anything could kill us, and of course it can't, that's silly, it would be condemnation of someone we considered other than ourselves, or our self-condemnation of ourselves. If we do this, we are seemingly condemning ourselves to death. Just condemning ourselves to death. That's what seems to take place. Now, man is not created. We're going into this, we'll be able to finish it, but I want to get into it anyway. Man is not created. What is man? Does he consist of bones, blood, muscles, etc.? If so, there is nothing to or of man but a temporary body of matter. I wanted to get over this part of it. But man can never be confined within a supposed born body. Man is conscious of his surroundings. He's conscious of his home, his city, his nation, yes. Man is even conscious of the world and the universe. If man were confined within a supposedly born body, all man would be conscious of or know anything about would be just a born body. All anyone would know is what's inside here. Now there we would be trapped, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we? But this man, who cannot be enclosed or encased in a supposedly born body, consists of living consciousness. It would be utterly impossible for man to create intelligence, life, or consciousness. We discovered that. Now, how could eternal, constant mind, intelligence, be created? How could eternal life be created? And even if it were, could man create eternal life? How could eternal infinite love be created? If man were not conscious or aware, he could not exist. I knew I had to go back to this. I realized that. It's a little different, but it's the same thing too. He can only exist because he is conscious of being. And being alive, he can only be intelligent because he is conscious of being intelligent, of being mind. He can only love because he is conscious of being love. All there is to or of man is whatever he is conscious of being. That's all there is to it. That's all there is of it. Whatever we're conscious of being, this is it. Thus, man is simply an awareness of being and nothing else. That's what we are, an awareness of being. I am awareness of being. Now, which one of us has any awareness of having been created? Does any one of us have an awareness of having been created? Not one. Which one of us is aware of having been conceived or born? Not one. Our only awareness of being is an eternal awareness or consciousness that we exist, and that which is eternal can never be created. It always is. It does not come and go. Now, which one of us is aware of being enclosed, of being trapped, confined within the outline of this body? Are we really aware of being enclosed, of being trapped inside this body? We're not. Who is? Well, then, we're not trapped within this body. Which one of us is aware of being enclosed, trapped, confined within the outline of his body? Not one. Which one of us is conscious of nothing but the body? Well, now that would be something, wouldn't it? Not one. Not one of us. No, the awareness of being that we are is unconfined. Unconfined in so-called time and space. It is infinite awareness of being. Thus it is that not one of us was ever created. And because the body itself exists, only because we are conscious of being this body itself was never created. That conscious of being this body itself was never created. That which I know I am. I know that I am alive. Thus I am life. I know that I am conscious. Thus I am consciousness. I know that I am intelligent. Thus I am intelligence, mind. I know that I am loving. Thus I am love. I know that I am active. Thus I am omni-action. The only life I can be is eternal life. There is no other life. The only consciousness I can be is eternal consciousness. There is no other consciousness for me to be. The only love I can be is eternal love. Eternal love. The only activity I can be is eternal omni-action. There has to be an identity in order that an awareness of being can be aware of being. Now, I better not go into this, Jenny, if you want to let it go. And then there has to be an identity in order that an awareness of being can be aware of being. You see, it has to be the identity that is aware of being. I'm not talking about a separate identity. There isn't any such thing. But nonetheless, it is an identity that is aware of being. You see, no one else can be aware of being you for you. You have to be aware of being as yourself. This is your identity, you see. So there has to be an identity in order that an awareness of being can be aware of being. It's only when you can say, I am. Now, no one can say that for you. I am. Now, the I that I am, aware of being, is the identity that I am. There can never be a formless or bodiless identity. Never can there be a bodiless identity. The identity that I am is the body that I am. You see, the body is absolutely inseparable from the identity. It's one. One I. The identity that I am is the body that I am. That which I am now, I have always been and will everlastingly be. Never have I been bodiless. Never. Never will I be bodiless. Never can I be bodiless. The body I was, I am. The body I will be, I am. The body I was before a supposedly created born body appeared is the body that I am right here and right now, and that I will always be. The identity that I am and the body that I am can never be separate or apart or other. There is no such thing as the identity and the body. The identity is the body, even as the body is the identity. God could not have been created. It's impossible to imagine God being created. God could not have been created. God is not a created God. God cannot become the form of anyone or anything. God cannot become the form of anyone or anything. How can God become what God is? All form is as changeless and eternal as is all substance, and God is all substance, all form, and all activity. God is eternal, immutable, constant. Thus, all substance, all form is eternal, constant, and immutable. Could God create, destroy, and then recreate himself? Does this make sense? Not at all. It really is silly to consider such a thing. For God to create, destroy, and then recreate himself. He'd have a lifetime job. No. Where does a created temporary man with a temporary body come in?
I hope you enjoy this spiritual audio. Like, share and subscribe for more.